Hey, hope you're having a good week. Zach again, wrapping up this week. I don't know about you, but I really identify with what Megan was saying this week about the need to slow down. We all have so much going on in our lives, whether it's going to practices for sports or for your band, doing schoolwork or church activities, family events, and other stuff. It can be hard to squeeze in time for God. That's why we purposefully need to make time for Him, like the time you're spending now doing Devo to go. I really appreciate you sticking with it. I hope you're learning some new things and growing closer to God. Back to the being too busy idea. In our crazy schedules, it can also be hard to carve out meaningful time for our friends. Sure, we can grab a few seconds to send a message online or to text, but sometimes that's about it. I have a couple of really close friends that mean a lot to me. One is a guy named Christian, who I get to see pretty often. He's a really faithful friend. We can hang out anytime and talk about deep stuff and encourage each other, but we also goof off a lot because we get to see each other a lot. Then I have another friend named Daniel who lives in another state, and since we don't get to see each other very much, it's always a blast and I learn a lot from him. But I think because our visits aren't that frequent, we make the most of our time together, not wanting to waste it. And then I have friends who are older and wiser than I am, people who are mentors, like John, who's in his 30s. He's married and he's an artist, or like Wes, who's older than my parents, and he's one of my most trusted advisors and a really wise man. When you're building your community of friends, know that it's okay for those friendships to take different forms, and don't rule out the older friend or friends who are very different from you. With them, you can really learn more about yourself and the world. You don't just want friends who only make you feel good all the time, but you also don't need to surround yourself with people who love to criticize. Neither of these extremes will be beneficial. We see Jesus living in community during his entire stay on earth. When you think about it, since Jesus was God, he didn't technically need friends, yet he chose to have a community of people around him, people he traveled with, ate with, talked with, and just did life with. We need to seek community and communion with all kinds of people who love Jesus like we do. They will help us grow closer to God and keep us from being lonely. God will also use them to help us learn the truth about him and ourselves. Let's just take a minute or two and move things out of the way that may be cluttering our minds. Ask God to open your eyes spiritually to what he may have waiting for you today. Let's read from Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 through 10 together. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. I'm sure you've had situations when you were glad you had someone with you who could physically, emotionally, or spiritually pick you up. Describe the most recent situation here. Think of a friend or two that might need someone to be there for them right now. How do you think God might want you to work with them, support them, or just be there for them? List some practical things you can do this week to be a supportive friend. As Megan pointed out, in our tech-driven society, you can go a whole day without talking to someone in person, talking to a real person. You may have to be more purposeful in reaching out to others, or maybe it might be time to reach out to someone new. We need to take a risk to persevere in finding friends who are like-minded, even older friends who are spiritually mature and can pull us up in our faith. What is the hardest thing about taking that risk and reaching out to someone new? Let's check out Proverbs 13:20. He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. All right, then move over a couple chapters to Proverbs 19:20. Listen to advice and accept instruction, and in the end, you will be wise. Is there any risk in making friends who are more spiritually mature than you are? What is it? And what's the benefit? I know God doesn't intend for us to walk through life alone. He designed us to support and encourage one another. It's also amazing to me that He calls us His friends. We need to be deliberate about growing our friendship with God the same way we develop our friendships with other people. What can you move around in your schedule so that you can free up time to spend with God? What might you be doing in your life that could be time better used developing this friendship? Remember in To Save a Life when Jake gets on his knees in his room desperate for answers, feeling like he doesn't have any friends to turn to? If there's something you're longing to tell a trusted friend, there's no one better to share with than God. Maybe you have something that's been bugging you or keeping you up at night. Maybe it's something you need to confess. Take some time right now and talk with Jesus like a trusted friend who really can keep secrets. Let him know what's on your mind. One more thing. In the Bible, we're told that God is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. He loves us unconditionally. Unlike our human friends, he's never too busy for us. When you're wanting to spend time with him, he never weighs whether he'll get a better offer from someone else. He's invested deeply in your relationship with him. Return the favor.